Hey guys, Robin Ivy here. I wanted to hop on this morning and do a little storytelling about perspective. It's a topic that's one of my favorites. Super interesting to me. So I don't know where to begin this story. All right, well here it goes. So when I moved into my studio, there's a guy next door who has a machine shop. And I went into his machine shop to invite him to my open house and noticed that he had this skull on the table. It was super synchronistic for me because I'd actually been looking for skulls, which is a different story, but a super short version is a good friend of mine makes these really powerful totem sticks with animal skulls, and he uses them as like a sacred object as like a manifesting tool to call forth things that he wants more of, to let go of things that he doesn't. That's totally a separate video. But long story short, my friend makes these really cool, super powerful totem sticks, and when I got back for visiting him, I came home super excited to make them myself, but more importantly, just to start calling in and surrounding myself with some more things from nature that remind me of our natural instincts and things. So I was on the hunt for some skulls, some animal bones, some bits and feathers, some things. I'm not usually, but I was, and it was awesome. So here's a skull, right, sitting right on the table. And I was like, oh my God, I'm so excited. I've been looking for skulls. I've been wanting to find this stuff. And he's like, yeah, take it. Go ahead, like have it. I don't really do anything with it. I asked him where he found it, and he said he found it right in his backyard. So he lives in Coventry, Rhode Island, which is like a little bit of a woodsy part of Rhode Island, but New England, Rhode Island nonetheless, which means like we don't have big game here or anything. So I brought the skull home and promptly like showed it to my 16-year-old. And we started our like naturalist journey of identifying what animal this was. We spent like, I don't know, 48 hours maybe, like Googling stuff, trying to like discern it, right? Like giant eye sockets, like what would be this bony thing? Like we went kind of through it, like side of the face, like all the things, right? Part of me just wanted to hang it on the wall because I thought it was so cool, but I had been envisioning this idea of making this totem stick where it would be like, you know, like seeing what's coming ahead and like being mindful of what the future's bringing and like just having clearer vision. Like I had all this stuff around sight and vision and things in my mind that that this skull felt really appropriate for. So then what happened is we start Googling, we start looking at like all these different animal skulls, and none of them make any sense. None of them even remotely look like this. I'm like, is it a bird? Is it a plane? Is it an airplane? Like, honestly, like we went from everything from like, could it be like a barn owl? It's totally not. This is like way too big for that. There are so many things that I was thinking it could be, and then so many things I was really sure it wasn't. So we're Googling back and forth and looking up all this stuff. Long story short, what we came to find, some of you are probably like trained naturalists and you knew this anyway. We're relatively trained naturalists and we didn't know, so there it is. But what was cool about this exploration is in doing all this research to figure out like what kind of skull this was, come to find out, none. It's not a skull at all, right? It's a pelvis. Yeah, so come to find out, once again, when you turn things around, yeah, right? Like legs come out, all this stuff. When you turn things around and you're willing to look at it from a different perspective, when you're willing to expand what's in your realm of possibility, all of a sudden your clarity becomes, like greater clarity becomes available when we create some spaciousness and some room for ourselves to explore something beyond what we're sure we know. You know, like I was pretty sure this was a skull because I mean, it looks like a skull, right? Everyone who comes in my house is like, oh, that's a cool skull. And then we have this great conversation about perspective and about belief and about how we train ourselves. Like we can take things at face value and believe what they are, but actually it's not at all, right? So come to find out, this is actually like the sacrum and like sort of the central channel of a coyote. Yeah, which really does live here. And I thought that was so interesting, right? So my thoughts for the day are, you know, often we can think that we're so sure, like we know things. We're so righteous in our knowing. I can really fall prey to this. Like I can be so darn sure that I don't question myself anymore. And yet, like, we don't ever think to question what's obvious. Why would you question if it's a skull? Except for the fact that it simply isn't. And once we know what something really is, like now that I know it's a coyote pelvis, well, like that creates a whole different kind of medicine. It creates a whole different perspective. It creates it's a completely different thing because it was always a different thing. So I'm wondering how many places in your life, how many people you're in relationship with, how many thoughts are you having where you feel quite certain that you know, right? Like you know what you're up against. Like you know you're looking at a skull, except you're not. And I think sometimes reminding ourselves that we strive for this certainty because it makes us feel more comfortable, even though it's not always real. And actually being willing to be in discomfort for a little while in an attempt and a search for what really is true, even though that's uncomfortable, even though it's difficult, even though it can feel like a transition, even though it can feel scary and all of the things, getting to what's real is important. And being able to see things for how they really are is important. Knowing that in fact it's not a skull, but a pelvis is important, right? It's a game changer actually. So comment below. I'd love to hear some of the things that you like, epiphanies you guys have about times that you thought something was one thing and it turned out to be something very different. Oh, I'm already at 6 minutes. Sorry, you guys. All right, I'll leave it at there. But just know there's probably a lot of places in your life where your perspective might be just a little bit off, and having an openness and a willingness to be able to see things from a different perspective, really come at it like, what if it isn't a skull? Like, what if it's a different body part? Like when we ask deeper questions, when we ask better questions, we can come to the answers of what's true instead of what we just want to be true. All right, that's my thoughts for the day. Hope you guys have a great day.